Hello and welcome to episode 74 of the Dash Force Free Amigos podcast. I'm Mark Mason and I'm joined by my two fellow hosts, Joel Valenzuela. How's it going, Joel?
Hello. I don't usually dress like this. Don't get used to it.
Okay, and if you're listening, Joel's wearing a shirt for those who aren't watching the video. So don't get freaked out by the comment.
Usual. You should point out I'm wearing a collared, button-down, long-sleeve shirt rather than just like I'm always just out there in full glory mode. No.
And Brian, aka Mastermind, who is fully clothed. How's it going?
Excellent.
And that is, by the way, per usual. Just so listeners don't get unrealistic expectations.
And this week's special podcast guest is Elizabeth Robuck, aka Liz, who is the Chief Product Owner for the Dash Core Group, who works in the strategy team. How's it going, Liz? Welcome to the podcast.
Great. Thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be here.
Right. So
let me just start out by saying everyone always wants to know is the origin story. It's like every superhero movie reboot has some kind of origin story where he's a little kid and he gets, bitten by a radioactive Evan and then starts turning into a Dash fanatic. So what's yours? How did you hear about the general cryptocurrency space? How did you hear about Dash? And then how did you actually get in contact with the team and become an actual member of the Dash team?
Yeah. So before I joined Dash, I was at Disney. I worked in e-commerce in the Parks and Resorts segment of the company. And it was actually there that I kind of started reading about blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies in general. I think my first exposure to it was I happened upon an article about a project that was trying to basically put travel inventory on the blockchain. And since that was, my industry at the time, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And, wonder if there's something there for Disney. I don't know. It could be kind of an interesting idea to pitch if there was something that we could do with it, or, like what would be the possible impacts of this to our business. And so, that was sort of the trapdoor that I fell down, and that's kind of how I ended up in the rabbit hole, I guess. I just became kind of slightly obsessed, as I'm sure you guys, can empathize. I got to the point that my coworkers at Disney sort of relentlessly teased me about how enamored I was with the technology. I'd come in on mornings when Bitcoin had dropped by some crazy amount and, just another day in crypto, right? But people all were making fun of me and my magic internet money scam that I was all into.
What year was that?
That was back in I started reading about late 2016, so probably early 2017. When things were way up, right?
Yes.
Considering. But it's still all over the place. And so, I think that's kind of how it started. I actually, one day I got a very disturbed phone call from my boss at the time, announcing to me that he'd bought some Ether and overnight it had gone down by 5%. And he was like, what did you get me into? And I was like, A, didn't tell you to do that, but B, 5%, that's a good day. Welcome.
Yes.
Wait until it drops by 70.
That's every single day for a Venezuelan.
Yeah. Right.
It's a little sad, but let's just say Ether did go up after that.
Yeah.
I hope he didn't sell. Do you know if he sold it all at that point, or?
No, I'm not sure. I don't think he bought that much, but yeah.
So where does Dash come into the picture?
So yeah, like I said, I just kind of became really, interested, borderline obsessed, and my husband is actually kind of a little bit of a crypto nerd too, and we started going to conferences just to learn, and I ended up catching Ryan's speech at Bitcoin Miami, and was just really impressed and excited. I thought, here's a network with real world use cases in the payment space, with real potential. They had a very focused strategy. It's not one of these who kind of can't figure out whether they're a store of value versus payments versus this versus that. And the governance piece, honestly, was also really interesting to me. You know, I think since then, and maybe even before that, you know, other networks have copied that model. But, you know, Dash was really the first to introduce this concept of master nodes. And, you know, I think that was sort of, you know, that spirit of innovation, I think was, you know, really interesting to me, and just really combined with, you know, the overall mission of bringing this trustless peer-to-peer payment network to people who really need it, is what separated Dash from the pack for me. So
Interesting. So
yeah,
basically,
absolutely.
the crypto nerd in you got you to the table, but then it was the business buff in you that saw that this wasn't just a plaything.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, I think it was an opportunity to really do something that had, you know, potential to positively impact a lot of people. And so, you know, I basically, after the Ryan speech, on a break, I walked up to the booth at the Dash booth and introduced myself, and the recruiter was like, wow, you know, you have a product management background? Like, you know, we have a product manager position open. We're actually looking for somebody that has a consulting background, which I did. And, you know, I was like, oh, what a charming coincidence, that I actually already knew. And I sat with Alex Chopin, head of strategy, for at least an hour, just talking about Dash core group, about the network, what's going on the inside, what he needed help with. And, you know, I felt like you're sort of lucky if you get one opportunity in your life to, you know, where it's really kind of staring you in the face, proactively inviting you to take a risk to do something you really believe in. And I took it. You know, I recently actually gotten kind of a big promotion at Disney, which was awesome. And I'm so grateful for that and for the experience that I had there. But I felt like it was something I had to do. And everybody at Disney probably thought I was a little insane, but honestly,
Well,
they weren't super surprised. So
I mean, when Disney's number one form of payment that they accept will be Dash, I don't think they'll be laughing so much.
that's right.
Give it 5 or so years. It'll take some time. Yeah, and it's interesting that Alex was the guy who kind of nailed you down on that. He's quite an entertaining fellow. I don't know if he was as colorful then as he was when I met him, but
yeah, no, that's what you see is what you get.
Intensity and passion, and there's a lot of that in the cryptoverse, which sometimes more intensity and passion than can be warranted for the given situation, depending on the person we're talking about. But it all works out very well.
Yeah.
When did you officially start with Dash?
March 1st of this year.
It's been 8 months now.
Yep.
8 months. So what exactly does a product owner / product manager do exactly, for those of us that aren't familiar with it? Is it just in terms of you just oversee the product itself to make sure it's viable for it to be used? I mean, can you break down how it works?
Totally. So, you know, product owners typically are, you know, they're typically responsible for one product, and they're responsible for developing, you know, kind of the overall vision for that product, collecting user feedback and doing user research to inform the development of kind of that concept, market research, competitive analysis, business case analysis, all of that type of stuff. To evaluate what a good opportunity is, and then they're responsible for working with the development team to see it implemented. So you know, kind of the more day-to-day things that product owners do are things like, so you define, you know, what MVP scope is. So you write user stories, you write acceptance criteria. And then you prioritize the backlogs. You basically advise on scope. And, you know, it's really up to the development team to kind of decide how much work they can take in during each sprint. But really, you know, product owner is responsible for priority and scope definition. So it's chief product owner, which, by the way, the chief part, I'm not an executive. The chief part makes me sound more important than I really am. It's just kind of like an Uber product owner, I guess you could say. Like you said, I work on the strategy side.
Or the foremost product owner. The up at the top doesn't mean the chief of all product owners or executive, whatever.
Yeah. So basically, I'm responsible for doing all those things at just a kind of a degree higher, meaning I help translate kind of our business strategy into our product strategy, and for the kind of the portfolio as a whole, if that makes sense.
Yes. So pretty much this is interesting because everything you just said is probably not at all surprising or weird or even remarkable for the average person in business, especially a large-ish company. But in cryptocurrency thing, this is a very odd, like, for example, let's just take what the Bitcoin core team is supposed to be or how it came about. It just, I'm a core developer, everyone's a core developer. And then there's the guy who actually has to manage the GitHub repository and gives commit access. And that's kind of it. Just everyone's just developer and they just kind of code. And Litecoin, has like maybe a developer too or something, or I don't know what they're at now, but like all these other cryptocurrencies are just like developers on the main coin itself. And then there's like a wallet developer, like doing some weird open source thing. Or it's like if you have a company like Edge, for example, that actually makes wallets, they might have some extra things involved. But the the Dash itself, the coin, the cryptocurrency has a product and a product manager. First off, a lot of people would look at that from the crypto space and say, that just sounds like a evil, shilly company that sucks. No, that's terrible. But this might be a strong signal to people who have been kind of sitting on the sidelines at this weird speculative asset space and are looking like, wow, you mean someone is tasked with looking at what's actually being produced and seeing if it actually has a use case to an end user and it all works in lines? Like, are we detecting some grown-ups in the space? Like, how weird is that?
Well, yeah. And I mean, I think, you hit on a really good point there. I think, we, in the cryptocurrency space, we have to, I mean, the things that the developers in this space have built are just, I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, and you know what, I mean, I think to be fair, particularly at Dash, and maybe Dash is an anomaly in this respect, but I do think, before I ever came into the picture, there was a focus at Dash on this user experience and on commercial viability. So, I think that honestly, as I said, that's part of kind of why I was drawn to Dash. I think my job here is just really about kind of synthesizing that, and helping us to develop kind of that narrative for what, how we present our value proposition of our product to the world, in a way that they can understand. I think that's a big piece that we always in this space would talk about is missing, is how do you explain this to your grandma? I don't think my parents even still really understand what I do. And to me, that's the barometer. It's like, the day I can explain this to my mom and she's like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay, we've got our product.
I don't want it to come across like a job interview.
Oh, that's okay.
But I'm just curious. So as you say, you used to work for Disney. In that position and role that you had before you came over to Dash, so the job role you had there was transferable skills. And also when you worked at Disney, were they on digital products as well, like you're working on now?
Yes. So at Disney, I focused in the e-commerce space. So basically sales for mobile apps and web, and was, product manager there. I oversaw a team of product managers and product analysts, and focused mainly on, different industry. Obviously, I focused on, it was mainly travel. It was parks and resorts, and I focused on resort sales and omni-channel sales. But, a lot of the principles are the same. So, all of the activities that I described before, defining MVP, informing it with user feedback and market research, performing competitive analysis to evaluate how we sort of stand up or stack up to other projects in the space, how we differentiate ourselves in the market. All of that is highly transferable. It's just it's a different industry, but And as you guys may know, we're in the midst of doing an agile transformation, which is kind of exciting. And it's, I think that's another sort of, to me, step towards developing a pretty sophisticated software development organization. And, part of that is having, product managers on board that understand how that works, what our role is.
And you've got experience in that. I know. I had a quick look at your LinkedIn. I noticed that you have Scrum, which is a part of agile software development. So you've had that experience for quite some time now, correct?
Yes.
And what exactly is that for people who don't know?
Sorry. Yeah. So Scrum, and it's a delivery method for agile, for software development. So basically, gosh, I can't even remember how many years ago, a bunch of folks in the software development space basically got together and they were like, you know what, this waterfall method, which is what, kind of the old model of software delivery, really isn't working for us. It doesn't let us produce product faster. And we need to figure out how we can optimize this process. So they came up with this set of principles, which was Agile or Scrum. And basically it consists of, so development teams operate in sprints, product owners prioritize backlogs, development teams take on a certain amount of, items from the top of the backlog as the product owners prioritize them. We do daily scrums. That's where the term comes in from rugby, where basically we have like a very short meeting. It's really not supposed to be more than like 15 minutes, if that, where everybody gets together and talks about what they did yesterday, and what they're going to do today, and any problems or blockers that they're having. So it's really very effective, and it helps to also kind of empower individual teams to deliver more effectively.
How many people are part of that every day?
It depends. So it consists of the development team, which, at Dash, I think, our largest team is, I want to say, like 6 developers. And so it consists of the development team plus product owner, obviously, plus the Scrum Master, who is kind of responsible for helping to coach the team and facilitate and make sure that we're kind of adhering to the Agile principles. So yeah.
I like the rugby analogy. A real man sport, not like that American rubbish you play over there. I was fishing to trigger someone then, but you gave me nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I'm not really going to defend football. It's, I go to the games and stuff. My husband's a huge FSU fan, so that's, I went to a really nerdy college, and we didn't really have sports. It was much more kind of academic. So I've been introduced to that whole world, but I'm kind of like, I'm here to support you, but.
So whereabouts in America are you? If you don't mind me asking.
I'm based in Florida.
Florida. Oh, okay.
Nice.
Have you ever been to Arizona to visit the HQ?
Yep. So actually, that was one of the first things I did after I joined. I wanted to get some one-on-one time with Alex to really, that face-to-face time is so important. And I really wanted to sit down with him and understand, what he needed from me. It also gave me a chance to talk to Ryan a little bit more, and see the HQ. So
yeah, the HQ's interesting spot. It's probably perfect for what it's for. Although the problem is it's in Arizona, and I mean I lived in Phoenix for more than 5 years, and 5 years too many. It's brutal. I'm just telling you, it's brutal. Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, Florida is obviously pretty hot as well, but I'm sure there's
humid. It's humid.
There's some better. There's like at least the beachy vibe to it. It's not just like dusty sand a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take that. I'll take that dry heat any day over the humidity. I come from the Northeast. I grew up in New York, and so Florida. It's been an adjustment, but
whereabouts in the Northeast are you originally from?
New York City.
Interesting. Yeah, it's not too. I mean, I'm in the greater Boston area, as they like to call it, but yeah, I definitely like looking right out the window here and across the river, seeing orange leaves and stuff, and I'm like, rather than just orange dusty rocks all year round, but
yeah, I do miss the seasons. Yeah. I don't miss the snow and the freezing cold, but I do miss the seasons.
Of course. Now, here's one thing that, when talking about the contrast between Dash and other cryptocurrencies, and that there aren't these kinds of roles like head of strategy for a decentralized cryptocurrency, or it doesn't really exist. And so a lot of people, of course, might be questioning the viability of, for example, spending money on that. So do you see any specific benefit of having an actual like defined product and managing that product for Dash that you can see moving ahead of other cryptocurrencies? I mean, feel free to talk a little smack about other things you've seen in the space, even if you don't name any names. Just explain like why, like clearly you believe in what you do, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it. So explain why do you think that's better than just the yeehaw wild west of the rest of the cryptoverse?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I think, like I said, the product owner's role is to be laser focused on the user at all times. So, and kind of what's happening in the market. And so, developers, for instance, I mean, developers want to develop, they want to be building stuff, and that's awesome. That's what they should be doing because that's what they're good at. But they don't necessarily have the time or the interest to be, going around talking to users, for instance, to be collecting feedback on existing products, and to be gathering research to inform future concepts, and to be, writing business cases to evaluate whether or not we think something is going to be a winner or a loser, based on how much value we think it's going to produce and how much it's going to cost. So, no, we don't see many product managers in this space yet, but I was actually at a conference. I was at Crypto Springs a couple of weeks ago, out in Palm Springs, and the majority of the talks there were focused on user experience. That's what everybody's talking about these days. And, we need more developers, or we need more, product managers and UX designers and people who it's their job to make sure that we're delivering, nice, seamless, understandable user experiences in order for this technology to scale, and in order for it to be adopted on a wider basis. So
people are now just kind of paying attention to that, huh? So it seems like I remember a certain project that was codenamed Evolution back from like 2015. Someone was talking about it. I think it was a redheaded guy from Arizona. And so it's been on Dash's mind for longer than most cryptocurrency projects have even existed. And I think it's interesting. And this is something, of course, sorry for, inserting my opinion and stuff into this whole thing, but this is something I think is interesting because these kinds of things, product managers, actual customer support, things like that, are not at all new to the crypto space, but they're specific to cryptocurrency businesses. So for example, Bitcoin has a bunch of developers that just and Litecoin and whatever else, Dogecoin, even throw whatever you have in there, have a bunch of developers building the base protocol. And then you have wallet providers. You have, for example, point of sale companies like BitPay. You have companies like Coinbase, things like that, that have the whole more traditional company structure and are able to do that. And the problem is what we saw in the end of 2017 is there is no way you can complete your job if you're relying on something that does not have that kind of setup. So for example, Bitcoin.com and the wallets and stuff have that exact kind of structure, have that exact like user focus. But if the Bitcoin that they're sending around just does not work, they don't have full control over their product, is basically what I'm saying. And it seems like this is a competitive advantage to Dash because Dash products, the wallets, the services, etc., there is a way of assuring a control over the actual product completely, because the actual base protocol that it uses also has product managers in the exact same group that feed the developers information. So that's one thing it cannot be overstated just how important it is to have something that works and that is going to work. And I've been living off of cryptocurrency for about 5 years now, and there's been a lot of not working, up and down, sideways, everywhere. And I'm tired of that, which is why I've been living off of Dash for a couple of years now, is because I'm tired of that kind of haphazard way of living. It's very high risk.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, I mean, I think, that's one of the things that I love about Dash is I feel like this, Dash core group and really the network as a whole has kind of they're kind of, in my view at least, and of course I'm biased, but really leading the market in terms of developing a sophisticated way of operating through the governance model and through Dash core group and all of these things, as well as in terms of product features. So, one of the other things that I was really kind of, I guess, surprised by, and not to knock other networks too hard, but when I was at Crypto Springs, I was watching these presentations, which were awesome. I mean, it's really cool to get to see all of the different work that's going on in this space. But, I was really kind of like going, wow, Dash figured this out years ago. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I think we don't brag about it as much,
Well, speak for yourself, because that's kind of what we do. We're professional Dash shells over here. I mean, obviously yes, obviously we maintain professional journalistic integrity when doing the news portion of it. In the PR portion, of course, you retain professional shillitude, but then in our private experiences, or for example, when we go to speak at conferences and things like that, our excitement can't be contained. And that's, for example, I'm going to be speaking Saturday. That's tomorrow, right? Yeah, Saturday, on a panel on blockchain voting at Politicon.
Cool.
And I know I know a few of the people on the panel. One of the people is from the Bitcoin Cash world, and I'm with all due respect and everything, Dash on-chain governance, years ahead of the curve. And it's not like there's no negativity to be expressed there. There's only positivity of just people are going to say, well, yeah, immutable ledgers can do this and that. And then I can just say, guess what? I get paid by election on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Now. And people have been doing it for 3+ years. And just you cannot compete with that, so ahead of the curve. And it's something that, obviously really excites me, or I wouldn't be doing it. What gets you the most pumped up about the crypto space here, or Dash in particular? What gets you most pumped up about Dash?
I mean, it's the fact that we are so far ahead of the market in terms of our feature set that, I mean, we've got an incredible advantage. And, I think, like I said, we've got a very focused strategy in terms of what we want to be. We are payments. I think, we're starting to get more and more sophisticated as, within Dash Core Group as to how we operate. And we have a lot of different really exciting initiatives going on. So I think that's cool too. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's the features that we can offer, and particularly our protocol features that are just way ahead. As you said, it's funny. So at that conference I was at Crypto Springs, several of the presentations, like I said, a lot of them were focused on user experience. We're already focused on user experience, and as you said, have been for some time. The other piece that kept coming up was was governance and the need to, improve governance mechanisms. And I'm like, well,
yeah, there's another
Done.
smack talky kind of moment, because a lot of people talk about voting and consensus and things like that. And as far as I know, Dash is by far the largest coin or project that has on-chain governance and a trustless treasury. And I mean, it'd be surprised. I'm not going to name any names because then it becomes a little bit too hardcore. But pretty much every single major governance coin or project that has some kind of something like that mentioned that gets thrown in whenever you try to talk about Dash. Well, what about this one? Has a centralized system that you sort of trust the people running the project to listen to the votes that come in. And I mean, I've noticed this with a lot of coins, and I believe that one of the ones that stands as a contrast to that actually is trustless in the voting mechanism is one that was literally copied from Dash's code base. So I'm just like, there's so much ahead. And that's the thing about, like, people don't realize how much fees cost. People don't realize how much transaction capacity a network has. People don't realize what wallets are even available or special features. People don't know just anything about the things that they invest in, which is a little bit of a scary thought. But yeah, I mean, Dash is clearly ahead of the curve in that case, at least from my perspective. And now we did get a question, says, ask what market research has been done on any competing projects and where we fall. How much do you know about that?
So I just I just completed a whole competitive analysis effort. You know, I think without kind of, again, I don't want to knock other projects too hard out there, because I think, you know, all of the innovation that's happening in the space, you know, we all help each other to some degree. So,
of course,
you know, I think,
I mean, it's no secret that a lot of Dash's scaling research was corroborated with researchers from Bitcoin Unlimited, et cetera, on big block scaling, et cetera. So yeah, there's a lot of, I know that Dash researchers are watching closely what Bitcoin Cash people are doing in terms of figuring out how to scale on chain. So anyway, sorry, go on.
No, yeah, I think, yeah, so, you know, I think that is an important kind of distinction to keep in mind, is we're still a very young space. And so, you know, we should do what we can to you know, help each other. But, you know, I think in terms of how we stack up, it's fair to say that, you know, in terms of, you know, I know I keep saying this, but our protocol features, we are way ahead of the curve in terms of transaction speed, in terms of transaction costs, as well as in terms of the things that we have kind of in our pipeline that are actively being built or already nearing completion. And, you know, many other projects are still just trying to catch up. They're still trying to figure out this scalability thing. So, you know, I think that's where our strength is. You know, I think in terms of, you know, areas to work on, obviously, I think, you know, we don't have as big of developer communities. You know, I think that's another thing that we need to focus on, is making our platform as easy as possible to build on, which is, of course, another goal for evolution. So I'm hoping that will improve once we start releasing. Yeah, but, you know, again, like, I think the things that we have already built, as well as the things that we are in the process of building, are far ahead of what else is out there right now.
Well, yeah, there's another question here about asking if you're focusing or conducting focus groups with people interacting with the Dash wallet.
We have not yet done actual focus groups. We are working on an initiative right now to define a better process for collecting, analyzing, triaging, and prioritizing user feedback. So that's one of my projects right now, which I think, you know, that sort of has to come, you know, one has to come before the other. So I think, you know, once we sort of build that machine, as Alex would say, I think that will help us to, you know, develop better user insights, and we'll be absolutely looking for forums like focus groups, as well as, other methods of collecting that user feedback to inform product development.
In the meantime, you just got me, who tries to buy my coffee every day and then yells at hash engineering some other people when it doesn't work as expected. So I'm your one-man focus group, and I make as much noise as a whole group together.
Yeah, no, I love it. And, we need that. We really need that. So, I think, and I don't know when, I don't know when we're going to be able to develop that perfect process. That may take a while, but in the meantime, I am absolutely open to, like if there's specific pieces of feedback that you or others have heard and are saying, this is a big issue for a lot of people, or this is something that we need you to be thinking about, just reach out to me.
Yeah, I test private send a lot. Private send, definitely. I'm looking forward to the improvements to see how it goes, but I've had lots of issues with private send.
Yeah.
Scaling.
I probably also use private send about 6 or so times a week at least. So, I'm heavy user. Sometimes it works really well. I did have a thing like just a few minutes ago. I was trying to send something over and it said not enough denominations.
Yeah, that's
because there's 3 big 10 dash inputs, and then there was a whole bunch of smaller ones, and there just wasn't anything in between. And just the like an automated process of splitting that up would be interesting. But yeah, that's
yeah, I feel like you are a user persona in and of yourself. You're like our power user.
Yes, definitely. It helps to work. Yeah. And that's the thing is, I'm big into what I call mainnet testing, which is a lot of people do things on testnet, or then they run a stress test on the mainnet, but they don't actually they don't actually see if it works for the intended purpose. They don't start at the end result and move backwards. And so, for example, you could just use all kinds of transactions in a testing environment and say, oh, it works fine. But then, for example, go when you're switching from data to Wi-Fi right at the point of sale when you're trying to pay, and then because of the node connection requirements, it doesn't broadcast for 30 seconds, and there's like 20 people behind you who are really upset because they don't get their coffee and they don't know how to have self-control before they have coffee, and they might smack you in the back of the head or something. That's a problem. And for example, I'm going to a conference tomorrow, whatever. And when I've been historically setting up wallets at conferences, I've tried to demonstrate instant send by checking the little instant send thing. However, say I have like 5 dash in a wallet. I have a single input or a couple of 5 dash. And every single time when I instant send to someone, then the change address that comes back, because I'm not sending them all like, $1,000 or like hundreds of dollars worth. The change address that comes back, that's locked too, and I can't even send for another few minutes to the next person.
Okay.
And so that wouldn't be a problem if it was broken up into inputs ahead of time. And this has been, I've written articles about that, I've reported it and stuff. And this is why, like, whenever I'm setting up wallets, I never use instant send. And so it's whenever I'm just doing like a point of sale thing, or when I'm buying from Bitrefill and I want that right away, for example, I do use instant send. But when I'm just setting up a whole bunch of wallets in rapid succession to where like within 2 to 3 minutes, there's another person receiving a transaction, then I don't. However, there is instant send by default coming soon. I wonder if that's going to completely mess up my whole experience, or if there's going to have to be a thing where you're just like when you have like $100 bill in your wallet, you kind of want change so you don't have to like pay for your $2 coffee and get $98 in change. Yeah. I wonder if there would be an auto, sort of like how private send breaks it up into denominations. I wonder if there'd be something that just automatically breaks up into denominations when you receive into wallet to have at least a certain setup. Yeah. Oh, that would be interesting. But anyway,
is that different from the chained instance? I think that's a different concept, isn't it?
Possibly. So if chained instant send becomes a thing, and of course I've seen
I don't know too much
evidence of it on GitHub. I don't know when it's going to be. Do you have any idea about that, Liz?
No, I don't. Okay.
Yeah, so that would allow, for example, I could instant send to you and you could instant send to Mark, and you wouldn't have to wait for the whole confirmations. It would lock the route rather than just that.
Yeah, so I am familiar with that. And yeah, I think that is something that's definitely being considered, that I probably can't, shouldn't.
Okay, Liz, let's keep it dashy. You're the guest, so I want to know about you, and I want to get as much information and intel out of you as possible. So here's what I want to know. You used to do lots of blog updates on the Copay wallet. So my gut feeling right now is that you've kind of moved on and focusing on the Dash Pay app.
Yeah. So
is that
speaking
true?
of gut feeling, most people have had their gut when they heard Copay, they just had their guts contract.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, you guys saw a lot of communication from me for Copay because, so in addition to kind of my role as the chief product owner, I'm also kind of playing the role of front end product owner, which is a role that we are hoping to hire for once budget allows. So technically right now though, I am also doing all of the, user story creation, user feedback collection, blah, 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 for the mobile wallets, Copay and Dash Pay. So I think the reason why you heard a lot from me on Copay was we honestly really needed the community's help with the beta. We have a small team working on Copay because the majority of our resources are laser focused right now on delivering evolution. But
who thought that was a good idea? Yeah. Is it just as you see in the live chat right now? There's a comment. Why is evolution taking so long? What's the ETA? And it's like, yep, that's clearly aligned with the consumer. That focus is.
Yeah. I mean, I think I can't speak to dates specifically. That's not really my area because I'm more focused on the product side. But I will say, we've made a ton of progress, and I think we also should start thinking about evolution as a series of releases. Rather than just one big thing. It's not going to be one big bang. This is a major platform upgrade. So it's going to take several releases. And, I think you're going to see very, very soon our next release, which will really lay a lot of that groundwork that we're going to need in order to release things like blockchain users and other exciting things that are coming with evolution. But yeah, I think, sorry, to answer your question on Copay, right now, I think we're in a state right now where we're trying to understand how much value people really see in Copay as a wallet, in the multi-signature functionality. Is that something that people, users really want and something that they find value in? So, I think we're kind of still in this feedback collection mode. And as you said, simultaneously, yes, I am very focused on the Dash Pay wallet. From a wallet standpoint, that's kind of our number one priority. So, yeah, very excited about how it's coming along. It's really, I think it's going to be very exciting. Once you guys start to see it.
Do we have multi-sig right now?
I mean, it is available for Dash at the protocol level, and the Copay wallet is out, and it does support multi-signature on the mainnet right now.
And does it start with the 7? The addresses?
I don't know. I'm not a multi-sig user because
I believe so. Yeah, because I saw something at Shapeshift, and it was like I'm normally seeing X, and it had a 7, so I was thinking that must be multi-sig.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, it is interesting to see also with multi-sig is I didn't realize that multi-sig was such a pain in the butt because it's just not just a signature, it's just like a giant one because of the ECDSA or whatever the acronym is, the signature scheme. Again, I'm talking about stuff that I don't know. It's like I'm, speaking about magic here. But it sounds like BLS signatures will allow multi-signatures to be much shorter, to be just pretty much the same size as regular ones. And that also reminds me, a lot of people, and there was a hype cycle of this. People kept on saying, when's Dash getting SegWit? And we're like, well, why do we need SegWit? And then it wasn't until recently that the illustrious Dr. Darren Tapp explained to me that SegWit is necessary for payment channels, et cetera, for a Lightning type network because of the insane amount of multi-signature activity required in that would just bloat the blocks to an unbelievable size, and by segregating those signatures, which are becoming really long with multi-signature, they are able to save data space. However, by going to BLS, Dash could actually do Lightning Network better than Bitcoin. I mean, obviously, it's much more nuanced than that, but in that specific, in terms of saving space on multisig, by using BLS signatures, Dash could actually get above that. But yeah, anyway, it was a little too technical for a moment there.
I think it would be interesting to evaluate. Once I wonder if that's been sort of a barrier for adoption to multi-signature functionality, and whether or not people might find value if it was a little bit faster and more efficient. Yeah, good question for you.
Yes, is the Copay wallet, is it working? It's out on the mainnet, or
it's still technically in beta, but it is available on mainnet. Yep.
Yes, is it going to be technically out of beta, or is it just that's kind of where it is, and you're going to see if anyone actually cares to push it out of beta?
Yeah, so I think, like I said, we're evaluating usage. We're kind of trying to collect feedback on kind of how much value folks find in it right now. I also think it'll be interesting to see, once Dash Pay is released, what kind of usage patterns will look like, if people will, continue to see value in that, or if they, will prefer to use Dash Pay.
Yeah. Well, and on that subject, I think a lot of people are terrified of Dash Pay, not because but they're just because that's going to be what people think evolution is. And people are going to see it, and if it's not perfect, or people are going to freak out. And I don't really I am an internal person in the community. I understand that it's just one bit of it. I understand that if it's not perfect right out the gate, it can be fixed and added to, and it's just and besides which, I didn't need evolution to care about Dash to begin with. But some people are going to freak out. So as part of that, I like to submit my personal recommendation of as little friction as possible. And one of the things that terrifies me most is the iPhone Dash wallet setup experience of having to go through a whole series of mandatory security steps to get it set up, which is kind of reminiscent of setting up a bank account or a PayPal account or something like that. But when I'm in a conference trying to excitedly, look at this, you can get this thing and I can just get it set up. And they're like, what are all these words for? And I'm like, oh, don't show everyone. And then he's like, he set the pin and then he forgot what the pin was already. I already sent him $20 and then he can't get to it's lost. It's like, because he was forced to set a pin under duress when he couldn't remember it. And he's like, oh, I don't know. And I got locked out. I'm just going to forget it. That's kind of the thing that makes me wake up in a cold sweat at night.
Yeah. I think it's one of the really interesting user experience questions that I don't know if anybody's really answered yet. I mean, I see that side, but then the other side as well, are we not doing enough to protect users essentially from themselves? By requiring those steps up front, so that in the event that, they lose their phone or, something else happens, they don't lose access to their funds. But yeah, I mean, I think, to your point, Dash Pay, it will be an MVP, a minimum viable product. And the goal of minimum viable product is to get enough out there so that we can collect feedback and react to it appropriately as soon as possible. So that will be our goal, is to be able to put something out there. And I think the other thing too that I always kind of say is we want Dash Pay to be a reference wallet. Essentially, we want to be able to demonstrate the full sort of we want to demonstrate the features of evolution, how other developers who are interested in developing front-end applications in this space or on the Dash network can truly deliver a user-friendly, username-based experience, very similar and relatable to experiences that you would find in your Venmo and other kind of, well-known and well-used payment apps today. So, that's a really important goal for us, is, it's not just about individuals using the app. I mean, of course, that is the purpose of the application, but it is also about demonstrating to other developers, hey, we built this cool experience in our network. Like, you can do this. You can make crypto easy to use.
How can you be so certain on the Dash Pay experience? You've previously just said that with the Copay wallet, you had to communicate because you needed the feedback from the community, but you're not doing that this time around with Dash Pay. So are you doing small user test groups? How are you approaching this differently with Dash Pay? This is what the community wants to know.
Do you need me to sign an NDA?
So we are absolutely, we are collecting input through a few kind of, smaller groups, particularly ones that are representative of kind of our key target markets. So, I think absolutely that is something that will inform development. And, honestly, in the meantime, like I said, I think we're also learning a lot from what we did right and what we did not do right with our existing applications. What confuses people and what they find value in.
Well, one thing about the mandatory writing down of the mandatory backups I found is when I was unprepared for it, I was just setting people up. It was a big problem. And then my most recent conference that I started handing out a lot of wallets, it managed to be pretty good because I started handing out these things. And these are cards with like the 12-word seed with them. I had a whole bunch of them. And on this side, it's Dash Force News. And that side is Discover Dash. So it's like a one-stop package for everything. Don't lose it. Here you go. And then they're okay with a pen and they could go write it all down. And then it wasn't that bad of a situation where they were like, they kind of understood that this came with it. And then they set it all up. And it wasn't just like, oh, I got to scrambling for a pen. I just can't do it here. Skip, go later. It just ended up being a lot easier. And so that's the other thing is any product is a bad product in the wrong situation when it's not used. Like you can't, why would a person in an African country with very little internet access and only SMS capabilities care about a Venmo type app? Probably not. I mean, that does not work for them. It's just, they don't have access to that kind of bandwidth, that kind of connectivity, et cetera. They just don't need that. But then you take it somewhere else. And so, for example, this, something like this could just add to the product and come with the product. Sort of like the Crypt mobile phones if they come decked out with a Dash wallet, a little bit of Dash in a paper wallet, hopefully a Discover Dash app at some point. Who knows? I mean, that would be on my bucket list. Yeah. And then bit refill and some other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Will you be communicating any of the stuff that you're doing right now? Because like the blog posts and stuff are kind of seized up. And although you can't reveal everything within Dash Pay, there does seem to be a lack of communication on that front. So, if you do these test groups and you get certain revelations from that and feedback, is there any way that you can kind of communicate what you're up to? Because I'm just assuming that you would be in charge of these test groups, or are you leaving that to business development to do?
Well, so I think it's a team effort, like anything at Dash Core Group, right? None of us can really do anything alone. Like this, developing a better user feedback process. I mean, today, it's fairly ad hoc to, be fully transparent. We are trying to develop a better user feedback process, and I'm working on that very closely with our business intelligence manager, of course, Alex, head of strategy, biz dev, marketing, I think as far as communication, it's an issue. It's another initiative that we are working on right now to define kind of what the needs are in terms of communications for the community, what people really want to know. And on the flip side, what we can reasonably support given the resources that we have. I think, again, open to feedback from the community. What types of stuff is really top of mind and really important to know from us. And again, you guys can feel free to reach out to me directly and say, hey, we really need to know this, or we want to know this, and we'll incorporate that into the plan. So.
Well, on that note, I have to take off. I'm sorry for the abrupt nature of that, but
worries. Have a
I
safe.
gotta run around. Yes, and you guys should absolutely continue talking and get all kinds of dirt. Start talking about prices and market crashes and things like that just get people all excited, and just talk about how do you what happened to that person you sold like $50 for Dash back in December, and now it's like you got like $10 or less, and he's angry at you, and how many friendships have you destroyed through this? Anyway, all that kind of stuff can happen after I'm off. Thanks for having me, guys. I will report from Politicon and CanMed over this long weekend and meet up with a whole bunch of fantastic Dashy folks. Stay Dashy, y'all.
Thanks. I hope you
Safe
enjoy.
flight. Right. So in terms of Dash Pay, what are your personal goals for yourself, for you to feel satisfied? For example, will you be happy with Dash Pay when you can get your mum or someone that that's not tech savvy to use it? You must have some kind of idea in your head what you want to achieve.
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I think if I can hand that app to somebody who really knows little to nothing about cryptocurrency, and they intuitively understand the basic functions. I mean, there's always going to be some stuff that's a little bit foreign, but the basic functions of how to send and receive payments, to me, that will be a win.
Excellent. So do you communicate with the business dev team a lot then? Is it like on a daily basis, or do you just get together on a week? Because as you're in the strategy team, I'm guessing that you're speaking to Alex on a daily basis. And who else is in the strategy team? Because I noticed there was a couple other faces pop up on the team page on dash.org. Just want to talk about some of your colleagues quickly?
Sure, yeah. So I work, as you said, I work really, really closely with Alex. He's awesome. And we also had a business intelligence manager join us, Angelo, not too long ago, who's really fantastic and is helping to kind of define and collect analytics and quantitative data just about kind of company operations, how we're doing, how the network is doing, how our products are performing, all of that. And you will see some of that in the quarterly, which is exciting. And that really is the strategy team. We do have, we have an intern who helps us on things from time to time, but he's a student, so he's got other stuff going on. And yeah, that's the strategy team, but I'm kind of all over the place. I work obviously really closely with technology, so I've been working closely with Bob. And in addition to that, of course, marketing and business development. So we have kind of an effort going on focused on growth of the network that consists of members of strategy, business development, marketing, product, yeah, we also we have, and again, you're going to see some of this in the quarterly. We have a team that meets on a weekly basis to focus specifically on product. And that includes a whole range of people from the management team. Ryan's there, as well as Fernando, Alex, and a whole slew of people from both the business and technology side to talk about product, roadmap, all that good stuff. So yeah,
okay.
I get to work with everybody. It's fun.
And I have a question about the Dash Pay wallet. What's the difference between the Dash Pay wallet and the Copay wallet, and why do we need the Copay wallet if we're going to have the Dash Pay wallet?
Yeah, good question. So Dash Pay is really predominantly focused on demonstrating the features that are going to become possible with the Evolution platform. So specifically blockchain users. So its target user base is really, as I said, people who are not as crypto savvy. and we want to be able to demonstrate a very easy, seamless payments experience. Copay, really the main feature of Copay is the shared wallets. So, you know, and I also think that its user base is a little bit different, right? Because, you know, your average user is not really going to understand a multi-signature wallet, or at least not initially. And so, you know, I think it's got a little bit of a different focus, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it almost feels like Copay was just there for the transitional phase, but now like all the focus is just on the Dash, which is understandable, right? Because it's our flagship product and it's a long time in the make.
Yeah, the Dash Pay wallet, it's going to have like the savings account and the privacy account and all that at some point, right?
The sorry, the Copay wallet?
The Dash Pay wallet.
Oh, the Dash Pay wallet. You know, the truth is, I don't know. I think, you know, what we want to do is get a solid MVP product out there with the very basic functions. Test it, evaluate it, gather feedback, and determine, you know, what needs to be added or taken away.
Yeah, and it's going to function like with the DAPI, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it'll be, yeah, like the decentralized API or the decentralized SPV for your desktop, your phone, and is the usernames and all that part of the Dash Pay wallet, the MVP?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, it's a universal, fluid experience for everyone, which sounds like a very simple thing, but in the crypto sphere hasn't been the case at all. It's like different balances everywhere.
Yeah.
But like in terms of user experience, and I know you're still fleshing it out, and I think until 12.4 is activated, I guess the development team's kind of working in a virtual environment for this. But Ryan Taylor, more often than not, always uses the analogy comparing it to a Venmo-like experience. Do you think that's correct in that approach? Do you kind of just look at the like the leading kind of payment applications like PayPal, Venmo, and you want to replicate that, or are you in that process of cherry picking what you think is good, or is it just down to the UI UX team?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Yes, so I think, you know, as Ryan has said in the past, this is intended to be, you know, very much, I think a good analogy is Venmo. You know, we want the ability for users to be able to say, all right, I want to send a payment and I want to send it to @MarkMason, and this is how much, and boom. You know, I think we are looking very carefully at a number of different other payments apps, both in the cryptocurrency space as well as outside of it. So Venmo is an example, PayPal is another example, Monzo, the Square Cash App. But then, you know, also looking at other apps within the space that have done a really nice job of you know, creating a nice user experience. So yeah, drawing inspiration from all over. But, you know, I think a big goal of it is to make it a highly relatable experience. We don't want to go too crazy with the UI, because we want people to get in there and, like I said, know what to do just intuitively. Yeah.
On the Dash Pay wallet, is there going to be the masternode functionality? Like, I guess we're going to continue with the Qt wallet, correct?
Yes.
And the Dash Pay is just an extra option. Will there be masternode functionality in the Dash Pay, or is it all that stripped out?
No, all of that is going to be abstracted away. Yeah, the Dash Pay wallet is really primarily targeted at individuals, particularly the less crypto savvy set. So, you know, I would expect to see, you know, a lot of more complex elements abstracted away, which will take away some flexibility. But, you know, again, we want to make sure that we're presenting users who are new to crypto with an experience that they can understand and that doesn't scare them, quite frankly. So, yeah.
Does the Dash Pay app make you excited for Christmas?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm hopeful it'll be here for Christmas, and I know everyone's, you know, tightly pushed, because even right now we're just focused on 12.4, right? And even right now, you know, the dev teams on a kind of a workshop. I think they're still abroad. I won't disclose the location because I don't think that's been made public, but it'll be hard to find them now anyway. But I know that they're working hard on that, right? And I guess for the rest of the team, they're focused for this weekend for Las Vegas and Money 2020. So was your invite not in the post? Are you jealous about that? Are you not going to Las Vegas?
You know, I'm very happy to stay right here. Honestly, I got so much stuff to do. I have so many different kind of projects going on right now to really, keep on, building good, solid product management processes here. And so it's okay. I have seen a little bit of the content coming out of the conference that's going on right now in the undisclosed location, and it's really wonderful. The level of knowledge sharing that's going on there is very, very exciting. Yeah, I think we've got the right people going to Money 2020. I got lots to do here, so.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be an interesting weekend. Well, I think it starts on Sunday, and Ryan's talking on the Tuesday, which I think is the 23rd. But yeah, as always, Money 2020 is big time, and although we're going with strategic partners, I'm hoping new partnerships will be formed as well, and I'm sure they will. So. We've already spoke about communications and stuff. So do you actually have any plans to do any more blog updates, or are those days behind you now? Because, we seem to be lacking, for a while. And I know communications not, your role necessarily, because we used to get was it, it's not This Week in Dash, that's Dash Force News. But, we used to get, what's happening, what's going on. And it used to be every 2 weeks. But there's not been anything. And as we've seen from the live chat from the podcast tonight, people coming in and saying when evolution, and all this sort of stuff. So there does seem to be, a slight, even people within the community are still scratching their head and wondering what's going on. And they have to wait for these quarterly calls. So do you have any plans, or are you just taking it as it comes?
Yeah, so a couple of things going on right now. So one, just to touch on the what's going on at Dash piece. So I think we did that for a little while. We got some feedback on kind of things that people wanted to see more of and less of, and we're working to react to that. So Alex is kind of leading the charge on. Redefining how we report as a management team from Dash in a way that people find meaningful. And so, I think that's kind of what's going on with that. We're reevaluating how we do it, and we want to try to do it better. So. As far as, personally, my communications, yes, you're going to start to see some product communications, specifically about the upcoming release. I don't know if that will specifically come from me, but I can tell you that I'm collaborating closely with technology and marketing to develop those communications and make sure that they get shared out so that folks know kind of what's coming, what the kind of value is of our upcoming releases, and yeah, just to give kind of an update on progress. So, yep, we're working on it.
Do you think there'll be any mock-ups or anything released just prior to the release to try and garner some interest, or do you just think it's just going to be launched on the day and we're just going to have to wait to see what it looks like? Is there going to be any teasing or any sort of build up? I mean, was it too early?
I think as far as evolution, it's probably too early to say for sure the communication strategy around that. But I can tell you that work towards that is happening, and we are kind of trying to figure out what's the best way to get people excited without necessarily unveiling the whole enchilada too early. So more to come on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, because as strategy, you must be communicating with Fernando, CMO, and marketing, what's the best way to the vehicle to deliver this message to get people interested and target perhaps the demographic that's not been in cryptocurrency, but actually onboard people. And I guess, you know, we've just got over 2 months to go now.
Yeah.
So there's got to be something in the pipeline and start get things, you know, working. I mean, because for me, I mean, let me ask you a question. It's like, what would be your worst fear, you know, everything going wrong in terms of with Dash Pay? And it's not a negative standpoint. It's just, for me, you know, the worst thing for me would be all this hard work's gone into it and it launches and then just no one notices it. Like, it doesn't get the attention it truly deserves. So I think that's why everyone's a bit antsy, because behind the curtain, from what you're saying, everyone's clearly working hard, but that's not even filtering through to our community. So what do you think people think outside of it? That's my concern.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think we talked about it earlier. I think we need to figure out how to do a better job of bragging about the awesome stuff that we're doing. And I think we absolutely, we know that's a need, which is why this communication effort is happening. And you know, we need to make sure that we're doing enough sort of, you know, product marketing, I guess, in the right channels to the right people. Yeah, I mean, I think, as you said, you know, I think when we first start releasing it, again, I think, you know, there's this common misconception that evolution is like one release, and it's really going to be multiple for a long period of time, that sort of continuously build on each other. And I think, you know, it's not like we're going to launch this thing and 1 million people are going to sign up overnight, right? I think, you know, as long as we are seeing that steady growth, we'll know that we're doing this right.
Yeah, it's not just another, you know, version update. This is its own release within itself, and I think that's the question, because Dash Pay, as you said earlier, it's for everyone, for users of all technical ability. So what's the right way to go about this? You know, do we go for that Apple-esque keynote style, like online event that people can watch, or do you just opt for, you know, the traditional TV ad campaign and just pump it out like that and just hope people just take wind of it that way? I mean, it's difficult, but you kind of have to look at things that have come before. But in terms of delivering a product like this in the cryptocurrency space, it's kind of in its own league, because this hasn't really been done before in that mainstream sense.
Yeah.
I mean, like, do you have these conversations? Do you talk about, you know, we could do this, we could do that? What's the best way to get this across?
I mean, all the time. Yeah, I think, you know, the good news is, you know, we have identified our target segments. We have identified what we believe to be our strongest growth opportunities, which is what you saw in the last quarterly. And so, you know, I think having that, that focus will help us. And then, you know, simultaneously, and of course, I'm not the best person to talk about this, really, you know, it's Fernando, it's Bradley. But, you know, we are working on developing, you know, specific campaigns around those target segments to make sure that we're reaching the right people, and that we're communicating in a way that, you know, they understand what the use case is. So, you know, I think those efforts are going on. You know, simultaneously, we are doing things like, you know, the website redesign project, which is super exciting, that I've gotten to be involved in. I think that'll really help us from a user perception standpoint as well. You know, we are focusing really, really hard on creating a user-centric experience on the web that focuses on individual user segments and teaches them about Dash and what it can do for them in a way that they are likely to understand. So,
have you done any strategy or research on best ways to bring in developers? Now, I know the new website will kind of have its own section on this, but a large part of the success of Dash Evolution is dependent on bringing in third-party developers to build upon it. So it's impossible to say what Evolution is going to be like, because we need those people to learn and build upon it, right? It's got unlimited potential, but that potential we need to attract to build on it. So it's really key that we have the right approach to get the message out to these developers and say, look, here's what's on the table, because up until this point, a lot of the stuff's been internal and by hobbyists and stuff in, and I feel like we're really lacking that in Dash. You know, you look at Ethereum, they've got a really buzzing developer space, you know, and we've got all the tools and everything to make life a lot easier. And for developers not in the cryptocurrency space to actually build within Dash. But it kind of feels like we've ignored that for a long time. We haven't really advertised it. We've got the development docs, but we haven't embraced it, you know. And developers, I mean, I'm not one myself, but I imagine they have their own publications, magazines, or events or things that they attend to. There has to be a certain way to communicate with them. Have you looked at this, or is this outside your remit?
I know. I love that you said that. I absolutely love it because, yes, developers and how we reach them is something that, you know, we're basically at Dash, we've kind of started looking at, we have started looking at developers as a really key user group, and started talking about the tools that we provide to them, the APIs, the SDKs, the libraries, the documentation, all of that stuff as true products. And so, you know, as part of that, so we have a wonderful back-end product owner, Dana, who's really very focused on kind of the, you know, the developer experience, really. So, you know, from a product standpoint, he works on Dappy and Dash Drive, and is right now we're in the midst of a persona development project. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, where we're basically collecting user data to create a series of personas to help us, you know, develop those experiences with, you know, a specific user type or group of users in mind. So yeah, I think, and you'll see that reflected both in, you know, the next quarterly with the way that we talk about our products, and how, you know, basically we have our individuals, we have our businesses, we have developers. They're just like any other user group. They just have very different needs. And I think you'll also see some of that, you know, in our reflected in really all of our communications about our product, website, all of it.
When is that next quarterly call?
It is early November. I don't know the specific date. I don't think the specific date has been set upon.
Yeah, I'm fixing to have to go, Mark. We should probably wrap it up. We're almost an hour and a half in here.
Okie dokie. One last question, and it's from the live chat. We had a question coming in saying, any further discussion on whether 12.4 will actually be released as 13.0? So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, Liz, but some people are saying with the numbering of the updates, because 12.4 is such a huge update and changes so much stuff, that it should have its own number within itself. Have you had any input on that, or what are your thoughts on that? Do you think we should just keep with what the draft roadmap says it is, or do you think it should be revised?
So, you know, this upcoming release represents a major step forward. I think, you know, the core team has, there's so much in this release. It's really, really exciting. I think, you know, yes, there is continued discussion that you will see some communications about that. But, you know, I think this absolutely should be viewed as, you know, it's a pretty major stepping stone towards evolution. Yeah, so, you know, I think that whole discussion really, you know, it is not only sort of signaling that, hey, this is a big deal, but it's also, you know, quite frankly, from a community perspective, we want to make sure that, you know, people are taking it seriously, and network operators know that they need to take action. So, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, we're 1 hour, 20 minutes in, so I think it's time to wrap. So thank you, Liz, for coming on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it was great discussion. I appreciate it. So
Yeah, super informative. Are you okay for people to reach out to you? What would be best? They can find you on the Dash forums, Discord.
Yep, I'm on Dash forum as Liz R, and I'm on Discord as @Liz Robuck. So, yep.
Okay, and you've done your blog your blog posts in the past, mainly been on the Dash forums, but I've seen you do stuff on Medium before, right? Is that correct?
Yes. Yep, I'm also on Medium. Yep.
Okay, excellent. Well, next time you speak to Alex, perhaps you can give him a friendly elbow and ask him very politely if he would come on the podcast. I know the community would really appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, any extra added pressure would be great. We've been trying to get him on for a while, so that would be awesome. I imagine he's probably busy this weekend with Money 2020 and stuff. But yeah, so thanks, Liz. So that was episode 74 of the Dash Force 3 Amigos podcast. Hope you found this to be informative. If you've enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. Now, myself and Brian will retreat to the Dash Talk Discord, which you can join by going to staydashy.com. That's Dashy with a Y, staydashy.com, and that'll give you an invite to our Dash Talk Discord server. It's a free service, and we have an after party, and you'll go into the main general talk and just say, hey, where's the after party at? And we'll try and add you. There's only 10 spaces available. First come, first served, and you get to talk to me, Brian, and other cool people from the community. Sometimes we've got normal community members. Sometimes we've got core members. We've got master owners, proposal owners. It's a real mixture of things, and sometimes the best ideas come out from the after party. So if that's something that interests you, you can do that right now. Staydashy.com.
Yeah, I heard Evan's going to be there today.
That's the way to reel him in. Dangle the carrot. Excellent. So have a fantastic weekend wherever you are in the weekend. Sorry, wherever you are in the world. Stay positive, stay humble. Got to find him now. But most importantly, stay dashy. Have a great weekend.